Mary Nack and Wes Walker in our weekly conversation about all things Chicago, even real estate usually.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Yeah, we've been kind of bouncing around this month because of training programs that Wes and I are involved in, and it's making our schedule a little erratic, but because in the middle of all this training, we're also trying to work. Funny how that happens, right?
Getting in the way.
So how have you been? How was your weekend? What's going on with you?
Weekend was pretty good. Not too crazy for me work-wise or showing-wise.
Yeah, I mean,
Sun was out, so that was good.
we say that, yeah, the sun was out, but and it hasn't been too cold actually. I'm a little surprised that we're not busier than we are, frankly. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, the listings I have right now aren't really high volume showing listings for the most part.
You said you were going on a listing with Tamara. Is that tomorrow?
It's with Pam and it's tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh, with Pam. Are you
Yeah.
listing another multi-million-dollar property?
Maybe.
Can you tell us anything about it?
Mhm.
Is it in the city or is it
No,
is it Frank Lloyd Wright?
maybe.
Well, that sounds like fun. That'll be a fun one to work on.
Yeah, I can't talk about it yet though, but yeah, it would be if it works out. Yeah.
So it's on the North Shore?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe you should tell a little bit about Pam and how she gets all these Frank Lloyd Wright listings.
Well, no, but we
Oh, this is one of your leads. It's not one of Pam's leads?
yeah.
Yeah, what?
Can't talk about this one. I'm not allowed to. We got to change the subject.
Well, we were talking about Pam. I asked you to talk about Pam and how she knows all these Frank Lloyd Wright people. I didn't ask you to talk about the listing. You can't talk about Pam either. Okay, never mind. What would you like to talk about?
What other realtors can we talk about?
Well, I am reading Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
And I'm loving this book actually. And what I read this morning is it's not about willpower. Like if you say you go on a diet or something like that, that what plays a more important role, because as we all know, you only have so much willpower, right? And they're saying that, quote, disciplined people are better at structuring their environment so that it does not require heroic willpower.
Yeah.
They
I
spend
read that one last summer. And I remember parts of it pretty well, and parts of it kind of blend together with The Power of Habit, which I know he based a lot of his research on,
right.
a lot of the brain stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, and I've heard many different kind of researchers talk about that willpower doesn't really exist, at least not in the way that we think about it. But
Right. Well, he gives an example of back in 1971, a couple of congressmen or whatever went to Vietnam and discovered that an incredibly huge percentage of the troops were like, it was like over 20% were heroin addicts, like addicted to heroin. And so the military got all involved with all of this, drug programs and whatnot. And but then when these guys came home, they almost less than 10% of them actually let me wait a minute, let me make sure I got this right. Actually only 5% of them became re-addicted within a year, and only 12% relapsed within 3 years. And what they learned from that is because they were no longer in that environment, they weren't getting triggered, and they were able to successfully quit, the addiction.
Right. Yeah, I remember that particular story because I remember I was telling Stump that. I thought it was pretty fascinating.
Yeah. And
But
then the other really compelling story that they tell is about the woman who wanted to improve. She was a primary care physician at a hospital in Boston. She believed she could improve the eating habits of thousands of hospital staff and visitors without willpower or motivation, and without even telling them what she was doing. And all she did was she arranged where water bottles were available. So originally, the refrigerator located next to the cash register only had soda in it, didn't even have water available. So they put water in that, and then they placed additional baskets of bottled water around the various food stations. Over the next 3 months, soda sales dropped by 11.5%, and sales of bottled water increased by 26%. And they didn't tell anybody anything. All they did was just move around where the water was available. It's really, really fascinating how our environment.
Well, I guess it's kind of like when you go on a diet, they tell you clean out the house, get everything out of the cabinet, restock everything, because if it's not there, then you're not necessarily not only grabbing it, but not even really craving it if you're not staring at it.
Well, like he says, if you leave a plate of cookies out on the counter, he said, I'll walk into the kitchen. I didn't even want a cookie, but I see him sitting there. And the next thing I know, I've eaten 6 cookies and didn't even particularly want them. He said, so, and one thing that he did was he would buy like a bag of apples and put them in the crisper drawer in the refrigerator and forget about them until they'd go bad, and he'd end up having to throw them out. So what he ended up doing is setting out a big bowl of apples on the kitchen counter. And when he'd come in to the kitchen, instead of seeing cookies, he'd see apples, and start eating his apples. So just little tiny changes like that. And of course, then he talks about the compound effect of little micro changes having a compounding effect over a period of time.
So I think I spoke to the I can't remember his name, but one of the doctors.
Atomic Habits, Tiny Changes, Remarkable Results. James Clear.
That's not what I was talking about.
What were you saying? What? I'm just talking about the book that I read. Okay. So what were you saying?
No, I was saying it reminded me of, I said the doctor who I can't remember his name, but he I told you actually about one of the videos I watched where he was speaking at an event. It was one of the plant-based doctors, but he was talking about how everybody has these like sensors in their stomachs and stuff, and they vary from person to person, but that there's sensors that detect fat and sensors that detect fullness, and that everybody's work a little bit differently. So even if the same size person or whatever was eating the same meal, like one would fill up earlier than the other, both from the fat sensors and or the fullness sensors in the stomach, but that it was like one small bite of food difference over time would mean that by like, a 25-year-old woman, by the time she was 35, would weigh like 40 pounds more than the other person. And it was just that small, even eating the exact same things every day, but only that one bite difference or whatever, compounding over time.
He talks about that in the compound effect that we just finished reading last month, where he has the 3 guys, and the one guy exactly like you said, decides to cut out
It
too
was a
much.
little more obvious, I thought, though, with, one drinks a soda instead of water, one drinks that stuff seemed a little more obvious, but it was like such a small fraction for somebody, just because the difference in the sensors in their body or whatever would make such a huge difference in
Well,
like
wait a minute. What you're losing me. What do the sensors in the body have to do with it?
well, because one person would feel fullness before the other person, even though they may have be the same size, and but because the sensors are different in each person.
So that explains why one person is thin and the other's not.
Exactly. And
Like,
then it has nothing to do with willpower. Yeah, another example that it wasn't, where he was saying it's not willpower.
and 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 what was it, like 10 years? Did you say the one by?
Yeah, I think I can't remember the example, but I think it was 10. I think he gave different examples, like 10 years, 20 years, but it was dramatically different. Like one person could become obese while the other one actually gained like no weight. And again, it was just like the smallest fraction, but because it compounds meal after meal, day after day, and equating what that is in calories to pounds, it was
So
pretty
what was
fast.
his point? I mean, what are you supposed to do about that?
Well, the point was, don't blame yourself,
Oh,
because it's not about willpower, and everybody would look at that one person and say, oh, they have no self-control. Well, it really had nothing to do with that. So that was his main point, but
mhm.
also that it's really about calorie density, and um, that, that's why you've got to fill up on things that have lower calorie density, because it may
I
take you
eat like
more to get
salad.
full than the other person. um, it may take one person, X amount of, food, size to get their sensors to react or whatever, but that it has more to do with calorie density than it does with um, amount.
So
Amount.
eating raw vegetables to fill up on a salad before you start your main meal, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
those sorts of things. Yeah. So it was he had several main points with that, but it was just interesting to hear, like I said, how little difference, how big difference it makes with just a little bitty amount. Yeah.
Well, and he talks about that in this book too, the Atomic Habits book. He talks about uh, the the compounding effect, and how just making a small, well, and that's why he calls it atomic habits, because they're at the cellular, the level of atoms. They're um, tiny little atomic sized habits, the size of an atom, kind of thing, microscopic little mini habits, but given time and patience will make an incredible result over a period of time. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's kind of interesting. I mean, I don't know if that's a hopeful message. I guess it is, because I mean, well, and of course the same can happen with a bad habit. I mean, you can have remarkable results, either good or bad, because of your habit. So
Because
it's,
of a very small habit, right?
yeah, sort of interesting. So anyway, but yeah, I guess that's our topic for today.
What's your habits?
Well, one of the things that because I've been going to the dental school, and you've heard me talk about this, and having all this work done, I'm getting I've been going down to the U of I dental school down at Circle Campus. Um, it's been a 3-year process at this point, which I'm finishing up. I've got one last thing that they're working on, and I'll be done. But it's been a 3-year ordeal. And I'm on my third student. She graduates in May, so I told her, I said, you gotta get this last crown done before you graduate, because then I'm done. I'm not going to a fourth student. But because of I'm getting like I don't know, like $15,000 worth of dental work done for like $5,000. And so that's part of it. But the other part that I really appreciate is the fact that I know that I'm getting quality work done, that it's work, you know, that the professors have concurred. It's almost like getting a built-in second opinion.
Right.
Which is what actually drove me there. My dentist that I'd been going to for years retired. So I went to a new dentist, and it wasn't like I wasn't going to the dentist on a regular basis. I've been going, 2-3 times a year, like we're supposed to. And I go to this new dentist, and she like freaks out at my mouth, like, like I hadn't been to a dentist in 10 years, and tells me I have $9,000 worth of work, and that's just to get started. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, this does not sound right. Well, maybe, to be fair, maybe maybe some of it was justified. I don't know, but it's a little hard to know. So that's what drove me to the dental school, really, to get a second opinion and find out, what's really going on here. So anyway, so there was a lot of work that needed to be done. And now I have this great, but the point about the habits, getting back to the habits, is that that because of that, I've really installed a habit of brushing and taking care of my teeth before I go to bed at night. And it was not easy. I have to say it was not. It took, the rule of thumb is 21 days to install a habit. No, I mean, it took me probably 6 months from saying, do I want to brush my teeth tonight? Because I'm tired. I just want to go to bed. It took 6 months before I stopped asking that question every night. And now I just do it now without really thinking about it. But I don't know. I don't know what that says about me.
Well, it was a really long habit in the opposite direction you were trying to break.
Right. I mean, I brush my teeth regularly, but they actually put me on a whole different regimen of it, because I used to just brush and floss and that was the end of it. But now I have this whole routine. It still only takes me maybe 5 to 7 minutes. It's not a big deal, but they turned me on to a water pick, which water pick has changed my life. That's all I'm going to say about that. I love my water pick. It's just because I have a lot of nooks and crannies in my teeth, and electric toothbrush and water pick. So those are my 2 tips for taking care of your teeth.
Thanks for that, Mary.
So we got anything we want to say about real estate other than things we can't talk about? Well, I have a new listing over in North Center, a 2-flat. It's on the coming soon right now. So if anybody's interested in a really lovely little 2-flat, it's my seller is a union carpenter, and he actually grew up in this building. He's retired now and moved to the suburbs, but this was his family home where he grew up, and he has taken care of this building like it's his baby. So there we talked.
How big are the units?
Well, they're only about 900 square feet. They're not real big. They were 2 bedroom, 1 bath. He actually opened up the upstairs unit. He has a tenant on the 2nd floor. He opened that up and turned it into a 1 bedroom because they're only 900 square feet. So they're not very big, but it's like a little jewel. And he's got a finished basement. And what's cool is that it's in the ADU zone, yeah, that the pilot program that the city has. So you could take that basement apartment. He has a beautiful bathroom down there. It's really set up as a rec room right now, but it could easily be a 3rd apartment and generate income. And you can do it legally because of the ADU program that the city has going right now. So
you could put one in the back.
What's that?
You could put a building in the back.
Well, he has a 2-car garage that actually was his dad. His dad, his dad actually bought the building in 1958 and was also a carpenter, and he became a carpenter as well. So, but his dad had his workshop in the garage.
Mm,
So it's quite a nice garage, actually.
yeah.
A lot of storage in there. But anyway, so there you go. If you're looking for a nice 2-flat, that's my new listing. I haven't got it in the MLS yet. So insider information.
Well, thank you.
All right. Well, I think, are we going to switch to this time? Does this time work for us during this 10 by 10
That's okay
program?
with me. It's okay with me. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I think this could be our new time for the foreseeable, well, for the next 8 weeks or whatever it is anyway. So put it in your calendars. We'll be back next Monday at 11, and we'll look forward to seeing you then.
Bye, everybody.